All right, everyone. Hello and welcome to another video from Holy Awakening and Thunder Dragon Neigong. Today, we're going to be looking over a very important article that I just recently produced on our website, which you can check out at the links below. This article is going to be going over what I see as one of the most important obstacles that lies along the path of the alchemist, the cultivator, the internal martial artist, the spiritual practitioner. This is an obstacle that absolutely must be addressed if any progress is to be made in any of these disciplines. And it is an obstacle that is absolutely everywhere around us in our modern culture. And it is the obstacle of personal responsibility and identity attachment. And so many of the people, particularly who get into these more spiritually aligned practices, tend to unfortunately have a problem with this. And we're going to go over in this article some things that we need to recognize, some things that we need to be aware of, and things that we need to work on in ourselves if we find these traits and tendencies within ourselves, because the fact of the matter is no progress can be made as a cultivator if you harbor these kinds of uh, ideologies and beliefs. So with that said, we're going to jump in here. I'll read through the article and also give some additional commentary as we go. Personal responsibility on the alchemical path, ownership, refinement, and the internal arts. The alchemical path. The path of the alchemist is, and has always been, a path of self-cultivation. In Taoist internal martial arts, the neijia, in Hermetic philosophy, and in classical alchemy alike, the work is never outward first. We're not looking out to change those around us. We're not looking out to change society, to change the culture, to change the government. The work is inward. It is never outward first, it is inward. The aim is the continuous refinement of body, soul, and spirit, the alchemical salt, sulfur, and mercury, guided by natural law and disciplined intent. Each day, the practitioner labors to overcome who they were the day before. The true struggle is not against society, it is not against fate, it's not against circumstance, it is against the unrefined self. The self of today must be burned in order to become who we will be tomorrow. Like the phoenix of alchemical symbolism, every genuine advancement requires a death. We calcine ourselves into ash, burning away illusion, weakness, and false identity. Very important in a society that fixates on identity. Only to reform into something more ordered, more coherent, and more alive. This endless cycle of dissolution and recombination is not a metaphorical poetry, it is alchemy in practice. The alchemist's adversary is avoidance of responsibility. In the modern world, the internal cultivator faces obstacles unknown to earlier generations. Among the most corrosive is the rise of socially sanctioned narcissism and victim consciousness, often reinforced by the oppressor-oppressed and social justice narratives, these Marxist ideologies that now permeate so much of contemporary culture. In this worldview, precisely those aspects of the psyche that cultivation seeks to refine, such as weakness, resentment, reactivity, and disordered identity, these are not only tolerated, but they are celebrated. For perhaps the first time in human history, large numbers of people are encouraged to define themselves by their deficiencies rather than their achievements. And think about this. When in history have we seen people who are encouraged to identify as, oh, I have this health condition, or I have this disability, or I'm marginalized in this way, I'm I'm discriminated against, rather than I've achieved this, look what I've done, look what I've accomplished. It is completely backward from anything that has ever been conceived before in human history. No longer do we celebrate great achievers. We now celebrate people who are wallowing in their deficiencies. It's ridiculous. They're encouraged to define themselves by their deficiencies rather than their achievements, to identify with affliction rather than to transcend it. We're told we don't need to work to overcome our obstacles, we need to just glory in them. If we're deficient or debilitated in some way, that's a positive trait in us now, as opposed to something that we need to work to overcome. Now, if you are disabled and debilitated in some way, and you work to overcome that and still achieve great things, now that's something to be lauded. But no, now it's not that. It's not your achievements. It's just that I have this condition, therefore I'm great. That's a great special thing about me. I'm special because I have this condition. They're identifying themselves with a negative, which is never going to lead to a positive outcome. And to explain every difficulty in life as the fault of some external enemy. Whatever goes wrong, whatever doesn't work out, it's not my fault. Someone did it to me. I was oppressed. I was discriminated against. Oh, well, if I didn't have this disability, it's just excuses. Excuses have no place on the alchemical path. This mentality teaches that if one's life does not match an imagined ideal, or if progress is slow, or if effort is required beyond what feels comfortable, well, the blame must lie elsewhere. It can't be my fault. Responsibility is displaced. Excuses multiply, and the self is declared beyond reproach. According to this narrative, perfection, utopia, would naturally arise if only that oppressor were removed. If only that racist or that bigot or that discriminative body of government or those people that are against us, if only they weren't there, then we would live in utopia. This is nonsense. This belief system is not only mistaken, it is antithetical to alchemy. Internal cultivation demands total ownership. The internal arts begin with a non-negotiable realization. Each of us is entirely responsible for our own thoughts, beliefs, actions, and the results they produce. Get this solidified in your mind. Each of us is entirely responsible for our thoughts, beliefs, actions, and the results they produce. There is no progress without this understanding. Excuses for personal lack of effort, lack of clarity, lack of discipline, lack of ingenuity, or lack of willpower have absolutely no place in genuine cultivation. The alchemist does not deny difficulty. We're not saying nothing is difficult. We're not saying that there aren't problems, that there aren't obstacles. We do not pretend that suffering does not exist, but we refuse to outsource responsibility for our own state of being. The alchemist acknowledges the reality that struggle and suffering is the very crucible within which we are tried and refined. And we use that toward our purpose of cultivation. For any of you who are familiar with exercise, fitness, science, you'll be familiar with what's called Wolff's Law, which states that bones under pressure grow stronger. This is seen in astronauts who spend too much time in space. They come back to Earth and their bones have grown so weak they can't even stand. And on the flip side, people who engage in resistance training, heavy weight training, grow stronger, denser bones. We are literally designed so that the pressure that is put upon us makes us stronger. This is an example of the way the universe is set up, the way it is fundamentally designed. Pressure, struggle, suffering, obstacles, adversaries, these are what help us to get stronger, to become better. This is exactly what we want as alchemists. We want to overcome struggle, to overcome difficulties, to overcome obstacles. We do not want a world where there is no struggle, because then we will become weak. We will not have this tool by which we become stronger, by which we become better. People who advocate for total equity, that we're going to make everything equal, we're going to get rid of all disease, we're going to get rid of all poverty, all hunger. This is nonsense. Not only is it unrealistic and irrational, but it is fundamentally against natural law. If we were in a situation where there was no stress and no struggle, we would fall apart, just like the bones of the astronaut in space. We are warring against natural law itself when we think this way. And that is not a war we can ever win. It is an exercise in stupidity and futility. Hermetic and Taoist traditions are explicit on this point. The laws of cause and effect, of polarity, of correspondence, of mental causation are not philosophical abstractions. They are observable realities. The mind is the root of experience, belief, conditions, perception. Intent directs action, and action shapes the outcome. Remember this. The mind is the root of experience. Your experience is shaped by your mind, how you think about it. Belief, your beliefs condition your perception of reality. Intent directs action, and the actions you take shape the outcome that you achieve. Place two people in identical circumstances. This is the biggest pushback that I get when I teach total responsibility, that we are totally responsible for ourselves. Is they'll say, well, what about people who are born into unfortunate circumstances? They're born into poverty or into war, or they're born disabled. And I'll say, yes, you can find people like that. You can find people like that who let themselves be defeated by it. And you can find people like that who took their obstacles, who took their situations of disadvantage, and they worked within it. They cultivated, they refined themselves, they bettered themselves, and they overcame it. Take any situation. You can find someone who fell to it, and you can find someone who overcame it. Place two people in identical circumstances. One chooses resentment, blame, and complaint. The other chooses reflection, correction, and refinement. One stagnates and hardens. The other adapts and overcomes. The circumstances are the same. The inner posture is what determines the result. This is undeniable at the personal level, and it scales upward to every domain of life. At a deeper level still, internal cultivation teaches that mental frequency influences physiology, posture, breath, nervous system tone, and even cellular expression. We know that the quality of our thoughts, the frequencies of our thoughts, have a tangible effect on the shape and function and structure of our cells. What we think, we become. Right belief leads to right action, which leads to optimal outcomes. Persistent identification with weakness, victimhood, and resentment leads just as reliably to bitterness, mediocrity, and failure. This is not a moral judgment, this is natural law. Again, the path of the Tao, the path of the alchemist, is to walk with God, to walk with the natural law, to be in harmony with the universe. When we fight against it with these idiotic, irrational belief systems, we are destined for failure. We are destined to become twisted abominations rather than our truly actualized and refined self. Identity as attachment, not destiny. This issue must be addressed plainly because many modern practitioners are drawn to Qigong, Taiji, yoga, meditation, and alchemy through culturally left-leaning spaces that emphasize identity politics and grievance-based frameworks. I can't tell you how many yoga, particularly yoga schools, they're more prevalent, but Qigong schools, places that are proclaiming to teach these arts, but yet spend all their time talking about the socio-political nonsense of the day. It is a distraction, and it is antithetical to the path. To be hung up on these ridiculous ideologies. Seeking health, energy, and spiritual experience is commendable, but belief systems matter. Your worldview matters. If your worldview and your belief systems are not congruent with the path you're walking, you will not get very far. Internal cultivation disciplines demand personal accountability and ownership of the self. They require the recognition that identity is an attachment, not an essence. Do not be one of those people walking around saying, well, I identify as this, that, or the other. That's nonsense. No one cares. It will only hold you back on the path. Let go of it. Disability is something to be worked with and overcome, not enshrined. Don't be someone who says, I have such and such condition. I'm disabled in this way, or I have a medical condition. Let it go. Release it. No one cares. It will only hold you back the more you cling to it. We work to overcome, to achieve despite our limitations, not to allow our limitations to define us. Character must be refined and purified. Each day, seek to refine the character. You become a better person than you were the day before, more focused, more driven, more intent on your goal. Natural law must be honored, not negotiated. Natural law is the path. To be in harmony with natural law, to actualize ourselves. This is the path. When we spend our time trying to twist and distort nature, distorting natural law, trying to be things, trying to identify as things, we are deviating from the path. It's nonsense. Let it go. Walk with the path. Walk with the universe, with the way of God. The greatest service to the world is the perfection of oneself. This is something I talk about all the time. If you truly want to better the world, quit getting in other people's way and start bettering yourself. So many of the problems that we have in the world are a direct or indirect result of people meddling with each other, blaming each other, trying to change or trying to control each other, rather than looking to their own selves. No one around you is causing your problems, you are. And if we all would focus on refining the self, perfecting the self, the majority of the problems that we have in society and the world would disappear. Do not blame those around you. Look at your own shortcomings and perfect them. Alchemy does not concern itself with social performance or ideological conformity. It concerns itself with alignment, bringing the body into structured order, the breath into harmony, the emotions into balance, and the mind into clarity. Any worldview that externalizes blame and sanctifies dysfunction directly obstructs this process. It must be released in order to progress. The alchemist's standard. To reach the depths of alchemy, one must shed all nonsense that deviates from the natural order. External blame for internal shortcomings must be abandoned. The practitioner must be willing to face himself without flinching, to burn away comforting illusions, and to be reborn again and again through disciplined effort. Each day, we calcine, we refine, we become greater. The alchemical path has no tolerance for the indulgence of grievance as identity, nor for the narratives that deny personal agency. This is not cruelty. It is compassion, rooted in truth, objective truth, which, yes, there is objective truth, the foundations of the universe. Only through ownership can power be reclaimed. Only through responsibility can freedom be earned. The alchemist does not ask who is to blame. He asks, what must be refined today? So that's a lot to think about. As I said, these are huge problems in our world today, affecting so many people, and they cannot be allowed to persist in the life of a cultivator, of a spiritual practitioner, internal martial artist, an alchemist. We have to overcome the toxic beliefs that have been put upon us through the flawed ideologies that have arisen in recent years. We have to get back to nature, back to the path of God, the path of the universe, the Tao. So with that said, everyone, hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching through this. Can't stress how important this is. Can't stress enough how important this is. If you like videos like this, be sure and like, follow, subscribe, whatever is applicable for wherever you're watching this, to be notified of more educational content that comes out. Check out our websites and all the links below for classes, courses, consultations. And with that said, everybody take care, and we will see you again next time. Thanks for watching.